Timothy Drano, Liz Wheeler, Mike Cernovich, and there are others. Jack Posobiec, I believe, has been talking about this. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say it. I believe the FBI has gone rogue. We have been provided a letter from an unnamed source, and it appears that elements of the federal government are intentionally hiding the Epstein documents to prevent them from being released. This is a degree of shocking I cannot begin to describe. I'm not going to bury the lead or wait. I've got it right here. This letter, again, provided to me from an unnamed source, Office of the Attorney General, Washington, D.C., 20530, February 27th, 2025. Let me read you this shocking letter that reads, Dear Director Patel, before you came into office, I requested the full and complete files related to Jeffrey Epstein. In response to this request, I received approximately 200 pages of documents, which consisted primarily of flight logs, Epstein's list of contacts, and a list of victims' names and phone numbers. I repeatedly questioned whether this was the full set of documents responsive to my request, and was repeatedly assured by the FBI that we had received the full set of documents. Late yesterday, I learned from a source that the FBI field office in New York was in possession of thousands of pages of documents related to the investigation and indictment of Epstein. Despite my repeated requests, the FBI never disclosed the existence of these files. When you and I spoke yesterday, you were just as surprised as I was to learn this new information. By 8 a.m. tomorrow, February 28th, the FBI will deliver the full and complete Epstein files to my office.
All right, I thought that was going to talk about the actual files, but Mia, I know you've been investigating this, so I heard basically they didn't release anything. Is that true?
I didn't think they released anything that we didn't already know. And that's super disappointing. The fact that they gave it to a handful of Trump sympathizers doesn't help either, and doesn't fit into the transparency that they're trying to push. And I'm going to say that it just doesn't help that the DOJ could have uploaded the PDF file onto their website, or the FBI, or anything. So the simple fact that they gave it to a handful of Trump loyalists doesn't really scream transparency to me. And to be honest, we need to be honest and keep ourselves genuine, that there's a lack of accountability in this, and it's really starting to show the cracks. I'm not super impressed. I've learned more from going through old FOIAs on the FBI from 2006 than I did those new records released that we got years ago.
For sure. Kate, I see you making faces. What do you think?
Now I get to be Blue MAGA. I get to do the conspiracy theories and talk junk. Patel, the director of the FBI, just learning that there's thousands of files that were released. Oh no, I'm just as shocked to learn about that. No, they're protecting your boy. Well, not your boy, Gray, their boy, because he's on that call list. The thing that we did get, his numbers, his contact numbers are on there, and he's all up and through those files is going to that place. And the only reason they would act like they didn't know those files were there, or they didn't know they exist, or they won't release them, is because he's implicated in them. And that's where I'm standing. And it's the only reason they're not releasing them. He's in the files that they released, his numbers, all his contact numbers. I don't know why else wouldn't they release them? I really want to know. I want to hear what y'all think.
Slim, so is Trump in the files?
I wouldn't jump to that theory. I mean, that's normal from Doc, so I'm not even surprised he would even feel that way. So at the end of the day, it's still too early. What we do, we jump on it because it's a story. Right now, it's still too early. I don't see how that is the case. I didn't think like that, to be honest with you. I had no thought process at all in my mind about Trump being on that list, just to be real, until this moment. So I never thought I was about to curse. I never thought he was chilling with this dude like that anyway. So I ain't even stressing that. The reason they won't release him, that's a real interesting issue. But I don't think that is the reason. No.
Mia, what about you? I mean, like Trump has the pictures with Epstein. I feel like Republicans, if Democrats sneeze wrong, they're immediately like, "Oh yeah, they had something to do with this." Like, do you feel like Trump's involved?
I think he, at this point in time, is guilty until he can prove that he's not guilty. If as I'm combing through all of the old records through the FBI, I mean Trump is referenced multiple times back in 2003, back in 2006, obviously Bill Clinton as well, Hillary Clinton, Charles Schumer, Joe Lieberman, Chris Dodd. All of these people are heavily referenced. They all got money from him. There's pictures of them all together. So, I mean, we need to be genuine and say that the possibility of Trump being in these records is probably extremely high because they were reporting on this in the news. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein and Trump obviously, at minimum, acquaintances. They ran in the same circle. They also, back in the 2000s and the 90s, also donated to the same Democratic campaigns. I mean, to try to pretend that they didn't have any relationship is disingenuous. I mean, they were bidding on the same properties against each other. So there is a long history of something there. What it is, I don't know, because obviously we don't technically have the proof of that as of yet, but we can't be disingenuous and say that there is no connection. There is, I'm staring at the connection now, so there is a connection there.
But I want to know this. My question is, who signed the executive order to release those files in particular?
I thought Pam Bondi had something to do with what. K. Dot, what were you gonna say?
Pam Bondi released those under like a directive that they just re-released the files that were already out. So I don't think they need an executive order to re-release what's already public. The rest of those files that they won't release have to come from him, or they, whatever the time period is for the FBI to be able to release them to the public.
But what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, did Trump ever mention that during his time of releasing the King files, the JFK
yeah,
files?
he was asked at all. He was asked one time pre-election, and it's in an interview, if he would release the JFK, MLK, and I think even the Malcolm X files. He said absolutely. And then when they asked him specifically about the Epstein files, he clams up and he goes, well, yeah, but we'd have to be careful because there's a lot of people in there. We don't want people getting hurt. And he tries to allude to protecting the identities of some of the victims with this. But to be honest with you, I think it's because, one, like you said, he's in the official documents of his contact numbers, multiple different numbers. And why not just, if it's protect the children and it's all this, noise from the right that they want these files, he could just sign the executive order to release them. All he has to do is draw it up and sign it, and he won't, because he knows what's in those files.
I just think that's, if he knows, someone else knows, and if someone else knows, it would have been out by now, just because they hate him so much. They tried to unalive him. For Christ's sake. You know what I mean? Like, that would be a lot of.
It may not implicate. It may not. It may not implicate him in doing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
That would be like, you know what I mean? For some reason, it just doesn't seem that is the case. If that is the case, like I said, time will tell, but I just don't think he would incriminate his own self like that, like knowing that those files can be incriminating him. I just don't think he would do, after all he's been through. Like, after I don't think this is the kill shot. So call me biased, call me whatever. I know everybody wants it to be. It was so many times he was going to jail. So many times he was going to be impeached. This is just another one of those times that you guys are happy about some things that could be. Like I said, time will tell.
What you were going to say, Mia?
I mean, there's a lot of heavy hitters even referenced in these newspaper articles that I'm going through. So, I mean, and then we have to look at it in the context of the charges that are referenced in these very specific newspaper clippings are solicitation of prostitution, but none of them are like pedophilia. So, I mean, most of these crimes are going to run out. The prosecutable time limit is going to run out. So, I mean, it doesn't matter if Trump is in them or not. It doesn't matter if we have proof. Depending on the time frame limit, you only have a certain amount of time for basically everything but murder. That's it. Mm-hmm. So unless he is murdering somebody, I mean, the statute of limitations 9 times out of 10 for most of these cases are already done. I don't know what it is specifically in Florida, because a lot of the newspaper clippings are coming from central and southern Florida, because that's primarily where these convictions are coming from. It's interesting that New York has some convictions, but not a lot. But it seemed mostly Florida was more hell-bent on prosecuting Jeffrey Epstein than New York was. So most of the information is coming out of Florida. But I don't think anything is more than 20 to 25 years. So most of these charges anyways, even if Trump is implicated. So why would he not? He has nothing to lose. Half of these he could not be charged for most of these because the time limit has expired. So why not?
Because he'd be outed as a pervert. He'd be outed as the person that we've always said he was. The E. Jean Carroll situation, the talking about his daughter, everything. He'd be outed as all of it. And me personally, if I was Biden, I'd have released that shit so many years ago. I don't know why the Democrats didn't do that. I'd have used that shit. I don't know. So, like I said, it's just my speculation that he's in there because he's in the files that we do have. Like I said, his contact information ain't in there for no reason. Right. Whether it leads to a crime or not, I don't know. I'm not going to say that, he committed a crime. I'm not going to say he was in there graping anybody. You know what I mean? But we do have the Katie Johnson affidavit. Very gruesome details in there, things that she is quoted him saying. I don't know if it would solidify those claims. I don't know what's in there and why they don't release them. But let's see if he does, because the only people who have really been asking for them are his people, and I want to see if he does it to appease you guys. I just want to know, if he says no, what would you guys think?
Yo, I think like this. Your boy Joe Biden and his family did mad crimes they was supposed to be in jail for. I'm still waiting on that.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. Second of all, see, that's the thing. When y'all do it, it's all good. We got to sit back and take it. I'm going to bring another scenario up. Same thing with the jobs, right? The whole Kansas City scenario. All those people mad. He's firing people. They losing their jobs. How do you feel? And like I said before, when people didn't want to take that thing in their arm, they were losing their jobs too. That energy wasn't even reciprocated. It was just whatever. But now, he doing this. Nah, man, I'm not trying to hear that. Let the time go. We'll see. If that's the case, there's, again, something you don't believe in, K-Dot, but I believe in the higher power. That's a whole different vibe. You know what I'm saying? So if that's the case, it's going to come out on that level. I'm not going to sit here and speculate, though, because, again, these guys did crimes, too. And I've been waiting a long time. But then he goes and pardon his whole family with no crimes committed. I don't know. We still ain't talking about that. That's the things that I'll be worried about. Why is Dr. Fauci got a pardon? Things like that.
Well, I mean, we should
on Epstein.
We got to pivot back to Epstein, because that is like the topic at hand currently is Epstein. But I think the reason that the Democrats did not want to move on to Epstein is because he is a very noted, prominent Democratic donor. And I mean, we're talking people that are still in Congress and the Senate to this day. He was donating money. They are also on those flight manifestos. I mean, there are pictures there. So, I mean, if the Democrats would have moved on to that, they would have had to admit to taking that kind of money from that kind of seedy individual. So, like, nobody really wants to admit to taking money, being friends with, going to dinner, and shaking hands with such a seedy individual who died under extremely mysterious circumstances. So I understand why the Democrats have had obviously many opportunities and they didn't move forward with it, because it implicates them and it makes them look bad. Like I said, I mean, anybody can go on FOIA.gov and look up these records. So it's not like they're all dirty, and nobody wants to shake and have stuff fall down that can land on their lap. So, I mean, we may never actually get the true full extent to the Epstein files because it implicates everybody: Congress, Senate, current president, former presidents, the Clinton Foundation. I mean, it implicates everybody because these are all movers and shakers that kept this country going round and round.
And that's
so we'll probably never know.
That's precisely
Truly.
my point. No matter, it sounds like we may be switching the subject from Epstein or whatever, but it, like you said, it's all about an implication. It's never going to be about Epstein specifically because he's gone. So therefore, is this about Epstein or is this about the implication of the president and so on? You understand? So that's what I see this as. And this is another scenario where one side is like, yes, finally, we got something. And the other side is, maybe this could be true. And nothing ever comes out of it. We move forward. He won. Like, what are we looking for? It's like we still looking under the rug, or what? He won.
Well, there's another person that just came out